Pleasure. Been doing this for a while. Whenever we can talk to our next guest, who is, by the way, a Hall of Famer, Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, and has been with a byline in the Kansas City Star for 35
Yeah.
years. That great newspaper that's produced so many talented people. And Blair keeps hanging around, and he is kind enough to join us now from Las Vegas. Good morning, Blair.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good. It's a little bit different. I mean, the days of all of us being in a hotel ballroom in Dallas or Kansas City to cover the Big 8, Big 12. Now you're in Vegas covering the expanded Big 12. You wrote about it today in the Star because of Texas and Oklahoma gone, 4 coming in. There are the core schools that have remained through all of this transition. And you said, who's the new Big 12 power broker? Why not Kansas State? Is there somebody that will have a big voice, you think, that when people need a decision on something, they go, okay, what does either K-State or blank think about it?
That's a good question because, as we all know, in the previous iteration of the Big 12, they went to Texas first, Oklahoma next, and then the rest is a consensus of opinion. So, in those terms, if we're talking about the conference rooms and the big decisions, I don't think we're going to early on. Perhaps we will. The league may lean on the original 6, is what I'm calling them now, right? KU, K-State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Baylor, TCU, and for a little bit of guidance because everybody else is a newcomer. But I think in the end, there's going to be more of consensus of opinion than 1 or 2 schools leading the way, at least in the boardroom.
Well, and where's Oklahoma State and all that, too? Because as Mike Gundy speaking yesterday, and we know that it drew some headlines when it came to how he described Ollie Gordon's situation. But I always feel like Mike Gundy is one of those voices that people will tune into. If he's got thoughts on the future of college football, people will discuss that. There always seems to be a pretty strong influence with Mike Gundy. I don't know how much that resonates with a similar feel of Oklahoma State being part of that original group, that they could be one of those power brokers.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in college football now, and he has withstood the test of time. And is obviously to hang around as long as he has, you have to have a measure of success, and he's had it. He's won the conference. He's played in the conference championship game, won a lot of games, produced a lot of talent there. So yeah, he is a voice that we listen to. The way in previous years, we were always asking sort of conference and trend questions of coaches like Bill Snyder, right? And Bob Stoops and Mac Brown. Now, when there is something like that, if there's a topic, and there are many these days, right, with NIL and transfer portal, and we do ask Mike Gundy those questions, and thankfully he seems willing to respond to them, and but I think he is one of the, just one of the elder statesmen of the Big 12.
How much has your opinion of the commissioner changed from the first time you heard all of his wild ideas to even yesterday, where, I don't know, I think we're in agreement here, Blair. The Big 12 is kind of solidified through some rocky waters. How has your opinion changed on your mark?
Yeah. Well, it went from not knowing really anything about him and wondering how a person with his background is going to, which was, look, in sports, but not in college sports, and not in the middle of the country, everything in the East. How was that going to translate into, the skills he needed to navigate the Big 12 through what was going to be rocky waters with the television contract negotiation with ESPN and Fox. It was as we know now, only one of the 2 conferences between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 was going to survive, and he put the Big 12 in a position to do that. So, I think whatever skeptics there were a couple of years ago when he took the job and said the Big 12 is open for business, and everybody kind of raised their eyebrows at that. Well, he was right, and they did. When the Pac-12 turned down an offer from the networks because they thought the the offer was too low, he got in there and swooped up the available schools, which for the Big 12 was the four corner schools. And no, I tip my hat to him, and he's got more ideas. And still, look, I think the best the Big 12 can do is put itself in a position to be number 3 among the Power 4 conferences in terms of revenue generating. He's got the Big 12 doing that. So if you're a school in the Big 12, you're not going to be, so far behind the Big 10 and the SEC that you can't compete. Mm-hmm. I think these schools will be able to compete, just not as many of them. I don't know if the league will be as deep. Its talent will be as deep as it will be in the Big 10 and the SEC.
Blair, today's going to be an interesting day because there's the Deion Sanders part of this day, but there's also a lot of good coaches that are speaking. We were just talking about Neil Brown. Everybody knows the type of coach that Gus Malzahn has proven to be. Dave Aranda's in an interesting year as well. But Lance Leipold speaking after Deion Sanders, my question for you with the Kansas narrative going into Big 12 Media Days, has Kansas crossed over from the cool story under Lance Leipold to keep your eye on this team, legitimate contender for success for years to come in the Big 12?
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. Kansas under Leipold was amazing last year. The victory at home over Oklahoma, a highlight, a program highlight for the Jayhawks. Bowl game for a second straight year. There's still, I think there's still a sense of wide-eyed wonderment about a program that's winning now, and there's an expectation to win from a stretch of about 13 years. I can't remember exactly what it was, but 2008 was the last winning season for Kansas until last year, because even their first bowl victory or bowl year, they were 6-7. So there's still that, but no, they are absolutely talked about as one of the 4 or 5 teams with a chance to win win the Big 12, and that's to hear those words come from my mouth. Would thought a couple of years ago you'd have been crazy. To me, the other really interesting thing about Kansas is negotiating a season without a home stadium. Yeah, right. I'm not sure when maybe you guys can help me out here, because I'm trying to figure out. There are teams that play off campus and away from campus, like UCLA and a couple others, but I can't remember a team having to relocate the way Kansas is this year because of stadium construction. So that's going to add to the challenge to KU.
Hey, there's no way, Blair, in your lifetime you thought, first of all, KU football would have momentum. Glenn Mason had a nice run, Mangino for a brief time. I mean, you can't take away the 2007 season, but you probably, and you've covered different versions of KU, over at Allen Fieldhouse, but also football. You probably never in your lifetime thought you would wake up one day, KU football would have momentum and would have a lot of feel good. And then they'd say, you know what? We're going to have a $448 million project for a brand new stadium.
Well, right. I mean, just chuckle thinking about that. You're right. I've seen college sports in this part of the country for a long time, and I always thought that the problem with Kansas football historically was just that they could never get momentum. They could have a great season. I go all the way back to like 1968 when they shared the Big 8 and went to lost to Penn State in the Orange Bowl, and the next year I think they were 1-9. So they never have been able to capitalize on a small stretch of success. And part of that was because the coach often, was replaced or left after that, after that stretch of success. And look, that's the kind of program Kansas has been, a stepping stone program for a coach that can succeed. But that's not the case with Lance Leipold. He's turned down opportunities elsewhere to stay at Kansas, and I think that's what's going to be different about Kansas right now is they have a chance to, and with Texas and Oklahoma out of the league, they have a chance to be good and think about bowl games and winning records as long as Lance Leipold is there. And now they've got a new stadium, or about to have a new stadium. Yeah, it is an entirely different outlook for Kansas.
Blair, I did want to get your thoughts. I mentioned him just with the scheduled coaches speaking today, and Dave Aranda. It was funny. We were talking about him a little bit ago, and when Nebraska was looking for a new coach after Scott Frost got fired after the third game a couple years back, that Dave Aranda was on a lot of people's list of, hey, you could do a lot worse than him. Now you fast forward to today and the type of season they have in front of them with this newly expanded Big 12. What do you anticipate the mood being around this Baylor program, but especially what Dave Aranda will present today?
I think we were talking about this yesterday. We were, because of the newness of everything here in the Big 12, there aren't many coaches who you could identify as being on the hot seat entering this year.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that, Houston starting over with a new coach, and Arizona State got its second-year coach. And you mentioned Neil Brown earlier from West Virginia. He really turned things around a year ago. But I think the one program where you have to keep an eye on in that regard is Baylor and Dave Aranda. From being in the Big 12 championship game just a couple of years ago to where he is right now, we were talking about where Kansas, where the arrow is pointing for Kansas. It's just the opposite with Baylor.
Yep.
And kind of stunning to see a program that was that really had reinvented itself in its Big 12. At least after the few years of the Big 12, and to see where it is now. They can rally. I think one thing that's true about the new Big 12 is it is kind of open, and there is no 8,000-pound gorilla program in this. There's opportunity there. I think there'll be a lot of close games, and the ball could bounce right for Baylor. But you got to pick teams to finish first. You got to pick teams to finish last, and they're closer to the bottom than the top. And I think if it unfolds that way for Baylor, we'll have a new coach there next year.
Hey, we've talked to you many times, and there have been years where we talk more KU basketball, even K-State basketball, Mizzou basketball. But I think it is unique that along I-70, Chris Kleiman's in a good spot. Lance Leipold's in a good spot. What Eli Drinkwitz is doing in Columbia. So that stretch of our old friends in the Big 8 and the Big 12 is in a good spot. I can't believe we've made it this far, and we've mentioned his name a little bit. But is there any part of you that goes, man, not enough people are talking about Chris Kleiman? And in that turn, Blair, what do you think for this year's team for K-State is like their ceiling? Are they a playoff team?
I think they have an opportunity to be a playoff team. And you're right. This is going to be, depending on how it shakes out, this could be it will be if it happens, but it'd be the first time that those three schools that are in our orbit, right, the Kansas City orbit, Missouri, KU, K-State, would be in the preseason top 25.
Wow.
That's never happened. So that would be a really cool thing for what we all used to know as basketball country here. Listen, Kansas State just goes about its business quietly. It's without flash, flair, and they love to kind of pride themselves with the idea of punching above its weight class. They recruit the undersized guys and develop into Deuce Vaughn type of NFL talent, and they've always done that. I was talking to players there yesterday, and they're all undersized guys who were 2-star or 3-star guys, and now they're all preseason, all conference candidate type players. So that's just the MO for Kansas State, and it's worked so well for them. And so that's sort of the reason I wrote what I did today about why not Kansas State being the power broker, because I think that formula can succeed at any time, no matter who's in the conference. If you think of yourself as an underdog constantly, and you're always us against them, and everybody thinks you're just a mediocre average program, and you keep winning 9-10 games and going to bowl games and competing for conference championships every year, that's a good place to be. And now, will it work? Will that mindset work without a natural bully in the league like the Texans or Oklahoma?
Yeah.
We'll have to see. But maybe Utah, maybe Oklahoma State can fill that role for K-State.
And again, this is going to be a question about the original 6. Matt Campbell spoke yesterday. There wasn't any Anything major to take away other than we know who Matt Campbell is. We know what Iowa State is. They're picked to finish 6th out of, a new large list of 16 teams. So not bad. I always feel like his reputation, what he's established there, is extremely respectable. But now that we open this thing up, in your opinion, where's Iowa State fit in the pecking order here?
Yeah, they're kind of under the radar a little bit, I think. They have been in the Matt Campbell era. They've been the underdog, the gritty underdog that that's gotten to the top. They've played for a conference championship. They won a Fiesta Bowl. They've seen really, really good times, and they've also had years where they fell short of expectations.
Yeah.
He's been one of the hottest coaches on the market, Matt Campbell, after seasons, and some seasons it's been quiet for him. And I think he's kind of established as Iowa State's guy. He's been there through, whatever, eight years now, I think. It's been an incredible run for him. So maybe they put themselves in the position to surprise a little bit now and to come back from being middle of the packish and to do it. The thing that I always think about with Iowa State is no matter who the coach is, no matter who the quarterback is, they always seem to have trouble on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They never put up a bunch of points. They win it on defense, they win it with ball control, and they win it with a kicking game. And so one of these years, I'd love to see them with an all-conference caliber quarterback who throws for can throw for 300 yards a game and 3 or 4 touchdowns. But you never seem to see that with Iowa State. They've had good ones, right? Seneca Wallace, Sage Rosenfels over the years, but never that one guy that just takes takes. And here I am talking about this. Of course, Brock Purdy was in the Super Bowl
right
a year ago, but yeah, I'd like to see them just be a better offensive program.
I agree. Blair, as always, we appreciate the time. It's always great to catch up. Fantastic work. Enjoy Vegas. Stay cool and stay out of trouble.
All right. Great talking to you guys.
Thanks,
Blair.
That's
Blair Kerkhoff. So let's see. I'm thinking of playoff quarterbacks from the Big 12. So Purdy from Iowa State, Hurts from Oklahoma, Mahomes from